Well, back on Wednesday, February 9th, just a few weeks ago, Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Chapek said that he was pleased with the early bookings for the Galaxy's Edge Galactic StarCruiser Hotel. An interesting statement, to be sure. I'm going to talk about that in this video today. And right now, the early reviewers are in the hotel, the influencers, and as some may call them, the quote-unquote paid shills. So can we really trust everything coming out of their mouths that's about to come up as this embargo lifts on Friday? We've had some early leaks. We're going to discuss these as well because I think this is going to be a relative sore spot for the Walt Disney theme parks. I don't think they're getting quite the amount of traction that they're making it out to be. And I think once the real folks get in there, I think the paint is going to come off the walls, so to speak. Stay tuned. We're about to get into it. Let's do it. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back, folks. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. Good to see everybody out there. And we are going to go back and dive into the new Disney Galactic StarCruiser Hotel. But before we do, of course, as always, I want to welcome everyone back to the channel, and especially for our new viewers. You know, I'm getting about 5,000 views per video on average right now, which is tremendous considering that we have about almost 6,000 subscribers. That's crazy. But what is not crazy is that we still have about 60 to 70% of those viewers that are not yet subscribed to this channel. So I'm going to ask you right now, if you are not subscribed and you've been enjoying this content, or if you enjoy this content after you've watched this video all the way through to the end, please, at this point or at some point during the video, make sure you hit that little red subscribe button down there, hit that notification bell, do share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, leave a comment before you head out the door today. That's a big help with YouTube metrics. And that helps us to continue to do these videos and get these out to broader and broader audiences. So I want to cover a few things today and begin with an article from our good friends over at thatparkplace.com, helmed by my buddy WDW Pro. And this is talking about the new Galactic StarCruiser video that leaked in the last day or so. Not terribly impressive, to say the least. And we're going to pull up a screenshot of that in just a moment. But I want to go to this article, speak to some of this, because this is going to be a topic of conversation ongoing, I'm sure, for at least the next week, maybe two, as more reviews come out, as the embargo gets lifted on Friday, to my understanding. But these are going to be, you know, an embargo lift from media personalities and social media influencers that are allegedly now currently staying on this resort property at Walt Disney World in Orlando, basically for free. This is a comped visit for a lot of these folks, with the idea being that, of course, when they come out, they will sing the praises of this new hotel. We have talked about now for the last couple of months, thanks to reporting from our good friends at places like That Park Place and YouTube channels like Park Hoppin, Drunk 3PO, Reina Creole. We'll leave links to all these folks in the video description below. These people have been doing yeoman's work, collecting data, reporting on things they're hearing from inside the parks as they tour, as they get feedback from some of the staff and the Disney cast members of what's going on. And it does not look like things have been going as swimmingly, I think, as Disney had hoped. I alluded to a comment that Bob Chapek, Disney CEO, made during a recent earnings call on February 9th, just a few weeks ago. And during that call, Bob Chapek said that he was, quote-unquote, pleased with the interest in the Galactic StarCruiser Hotel, or pleased with the level of reservations that have been pre-booked for this hotel. Now, on the surface, that sounds okay. On the surface, that sounds like things are going well. But one thing that, if you have observed enough of these Disney earning calls, or you have observed enough of Disney marketing over the years, you'll know that a term like pleased is certainly far less hyperbolic than most adjectives or most descriptors that Disney has used in the past to basically convey their level of satisfaction with certain performance levels of the business. We hear things more often from Disney like, it's amazing, or had a tremendous performance, or we're excited, or something like that, something along those lines where it conveys a great deal of emotional sentiment. This was seemingly more tepid from Bob Chapek, saying that he was, quote, pleased with the reservations and the pre-bookings at this hotel. And of course, in the weeks leading up to that financial report, we had seen things from some of these channels and these web pages that we mentioned before, talking about how it seems that bookings had somewhat dropped off from where they had previously been. This hotel started out very strong with a solid level of bookings, no vacancies, as a matter of fact, for the first 2 or 3 months, at least so far as the reservation website for the Galactic StarCruiser in Walt DisneyWorld was concerned. And then that initial promo video dropped from Disney on YouTube, which was then quickly disappeared after a couple of days and let's just say a rather superfluous amount of downvotes on that video, and it suddenly disappeared. Of course, we've covered this video before. It looked, frankly, absolutely atrocious. It looked very low rent. I think I even made a joke about it looking like Great Value brand from Walmart when it came to a hotel. And Disney quickly pulled that video down. Well, no surprise after that, but that same booking website then quickly started showing more and more and more openings, more availabilities after that point. I wonder what happened. Well, it was posited out there by several of those same channels, places like that Park Place, Park Hoppin, Drunk 3PO, Reina Creole, that a lot of people were taking advantage of the 90-day free look, as it were, where they had booked a room, but then after seeing that video, many people apparently, or at least allegedly, had started rescinding those deposits on those vacations after observing the quality that they were going to be getting for their $5,000 to $6,000 for a roughly 40-hour stay in this, quote, immersive resort. Well, let's get into this article real quick, and we're going to talk about some of those new rumors and these new behind-the-scenes things that Park Place is reporting. This from February 23rd at that Park Place Galactic StarCruiser leaked video and impressions train wreck. Really? Welcome back to the saga that is this Star Wars Galactic StarCruiser. It would be hard for you to have missed all the drama surrounding this $6,000 experience for a family of 4. Yesterday, we featured leaked photos from the hotel, and today we're following that up with a leaked video and first impressions I've been provided. We're going to show some of these clips right now as I read this. And we're going to turn the sound off just to make sure that we don't get copyright struck. But please, I want you to observe this very carefully, because to me, this looks like a semi-dressed up Hilton Airport hotel conference room. If this is what I'm paying $6,000 for a 40-hour stay, I'm incredibly unimpressed. Back to the article. I have not personally experienced the Star Wars Galactic StarCruiser previews, so what I'm going to relay is from those who have. I also cannot tell you really anything that will compare to the video above when it comes to determining if you're interested in going. Still reporting on what sources are saying could be helpful, especially considering that I doubt the YouTube video stays up for long. Disney can lightly make a claim against it, plus even normal guests aboard the StarCruiser are heavily encouraged to turn in their phones so that this sort of thing doesn't get out onto YouTube. Spoilers ahead! Here's the impressions that WDW Pro is reporting from that parkplace.com. First, I'm hearing that the work to improve initial internal tests have not yet resulted in a significantly reworked experience. The concept is still severely flawed. Sources are saying that the only 3 Star Wars characters you're likely to know and will appear are Rey, Kylo Ren, and Chewbacca. Now, I want to go full stop right there and give a shout out to my buddy Drunk 3PO J over at Park Hoppin and Drunk 3PO on YouTube. Two very good Geeks and Gamers channels for a lot of you Geeks and Gamers fans out there. Of course, Drunk 3PO, Park Hoppin were as far as I know, the first channels to report several weeks ago that the main attraction in this hotel would indeed be Kylo and Rey. And I can't say I'm terribly surprised, as we've talked about before with the Galaxy's Edge theme park, the way that that park was developed, the way it was invested in, and especially with things like Rise of the Resistance that are centered around the sequel trilogy, that they would have to take this into the hotel. And I think even Drunk himself, as well as that Park Place, had previously reported that a lot of these experiences in this new $6,000 40-hour stay hotel were originally supposed to be offered as part of the Galaxy's Edge experience with just a regular park ticket. They have now been jammed into this hotel for an incredible premium. I don't know how well that's going to go over in the long run, but needless to say that, as we've talked about before, Galaxy's Edge, according to leaks from previous Disney Imagineers, these are the architects and engineers that designed the concepts for these parks. The original design for these parks were indeed original trilogy stuff, like Batuu was supposed to be Tatooine, and it's now Batuu, which was supposed to be in the sequel trilogies, and then apparently hit the cutting room floor. Nice work, Disney. Of course, we're all supposed to have things like Hoth and reportedly Endor and things like this. This all got scrapped when Kathleen Kennedy came in and managed to convince Bob Iger that the future of Star Wars lay in the new Disney Star Wars property and not in the massively popular, hugely universally selling Star Wars of the past, or original, in my opinion, real Star Wars. So let's keep going to this article. Second, that Park Place is told that while the actors are eager, there are just a lot of awkward moments involved because the actors are supposed to be fellow passengers. They're trying to act like they're doing all the things that you are, except that when an actor complains to a bartender loudly, it comes off as hokey. The actors do their best, but I'm told that the magic is broken when they're presented with conversation points that throw them off. Maybe that will be better over time. They're being asked to do a lot. Princesses, for example, have a minute to interact with guests, and even their improv skills are pushed to the max. Now, again, I agree with this article. I am not going to blame these actors one single iota. They are being basically thrown into, a fire at this point. And they have been asked to do these things on very short notice. We know there have been reports coming out in the last several weeks that Disney was still hiring new actors just as recently as 3 to 4 weeks ago to get ready to work in this hotel. So they obviously have not had a lot of time, and I'm sure for Disney, the pickings were rather limited, and the people that are working in this hotel, don't get upset with them. They are probably doing the very best job they can with what limited resources and with what limited time and preparation that they have been afforded based on getting this hotel open. Back to the article. On the plus side, everything that Park Place, am hearing about food and drinks is superb. Apparently, the offerings aboard the Halcyon are up with the very best menu choices anywhere at Walt Disney World outside of Victoria and Albert's. Now, 2 things on this I want to talk about. The first of which is Victoria and Albert's. An amazing restaurant. Apparently, the Grand Floridian and Victoria and Albert's, from what I'm hearing from WDW Pro, this is where a lot of these media influencers, these social media influencers, are being wined and dined ahead of going into the hotel right now this week. Not a surprise. Victoria Albert's is an amazing restaurant at the Grand Floridian, and I still have very fond memories of my father taking me there, I believe 30 years ago almost, if it's the same restaurant that I'm remembering, and I believe it is, from the Grand Floridian. Wonderful memories there with my dad in a very, very fine restaurant. If they're comparing the food available on the Galaxy StarCruiser to that is a big plus. I will also say that the one time that I've ever done a cruise in my life was actually on a Disney cruise line. My wife booked it, and I had my doubts going in, but I will have to say this much. All credit and praise to Disney, at least, for their level of the customer service and attention to detail, at least from my experience on that Disney cruise line. Now, as it has been said, This experience in the Galactic StarCruiser Hotel is supposed to be akin to getting on the Disney Dream or something along those lines, one of these multi-billion-dollar cruise ships that Disney has floating out in the Atlantic. If that's the case, then regardless of how good or bad the, quote, Star Wars experience is, then I imagine that the staff is giving impeccable service, because I was absolutely blown away by the amount of service and attention to detail that I experienced on that cruise ship. And I can tell you, I have been to a number of, higher end hotels and resorts over my lifetime. And I do treasure the customer service, and I tip these people very well when I get it. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I mean, I appreciate that level of detail and the workmanship, and I will give Disney credit for that. So if this hotel is delivering that level of service, then that may be their saving grace. And I can't overstate that enough. But from a Star Wars standpoint, it doesn't look so far like it's delivering. I've seen enough pictures, we've seen enough of the videos where I'm scratching my head going, they really skipped on the Star Wars aspect. The Star Wars that I experienced on the cruise ship looks much better than what they put in this hotel. My opinion. So let's go back to the article. One thing I've heard from multiple sources is that the hotel feels small, much smaller than people were expecting. The rooms are small and claustrophobic, and outside of the rooms there isn't much. A small lounge, a small dining room, the Jedi training room, a deck that's made to look far larger than it is are surprisingly minuscule. Speaking of the rooms, they feature a small restroom. We've seen pictures of these. They look incredibly claustrophobic. No windows in here. WDW Pro is saying that he is hearing from people that has been some complaints. With no windows, everything feels way too enclosed, way too tight in these rooms. There has been some negative feedback, to be sure, from that. There is no privacy for parents aboard this, quote, voyage. Sources are saying that it feels like a cheap cruise amenities, and there aren't that many. Surprising to me, some sources are even saying that if you struggle in windowless rooms, this experience isn't for you. I'm told that windows into space are sparse and not helpful for those who need to see outside. I will say that I did talk to WDW Pro earlier today, and that he did add to that he is aware that there are surveys that are being sent out by the Walt Disney Company to apparently people who have already booked for the next several months, asking if they, in more or less, in so many words, they're asking if they're planning to continue their reservations at this point. So based on the news that WDW Pro is receiving, if it's accurate, would seem to suggest that Disney has certainly recognized that they have a problem with this hotel, and that it's not going to be as bright a spot as they had hoped. And again, going back to where we started this video, I think now more than ever, this is why the verbiage was what it was that Bob Chapek delivered on that earnings call, saying that he was simply, quote, pleased with the reaction to the hotel, as opposed to excited, or as opposed to it's sold out for 3 months or 1 month or something like that. Remember, allegedly, according to the website, it was in the beginning, and then it wasn't. And I think Chapek's words that were chosen for that pre-scripted speech on that phone call were very illuminating as far as I'm concerned. So that is where we are with this. That is where we are. And it goes to show that, you can't, if you're a company like Disney, and we've been saying this, you can't just do cheap knockoff stuff. And it's a shame that is where this is going. And again, frankly, at this point, based on what I have seen, what I have observed, what I know from the business history that has led up to this point, I'm still having a very difficult time laying much, if any, of this blame on Bob Chapek for this hotel. Again, I go back to what I reported before, what has been reported on YouTube, not by me, but by many others, that I am simply reconveying here in this video. And that is that the original plan for what you're seeing in Galaxy's Edge, and ostensibly what we're seeing in the Galactic StarCruiser, is not what it was originally intended to be by the Disney Imagineers. That was changed by Kathleen Kennedy getting into Bob Iger's ear and convincing him that there was more stuff coming forward. We know factually at this point that the financial future of the sequel trilogy business aspects are largely dead. We have had no more television shows or properties come out since the final chapter of the sequel trilogy in 2019. We know, thanks to our friends that tour these parks and cover these parks on a regular basis, again, like Drunk 3PO at Park Hoppin and with Geeks and Gamers, we know from Reina Creole, we know that the park changed, radically altered their merchandise sales a couple of years ago, from having a park full, the stores full of sequel trilogy merchandise that didn't sell, and it's all been changed over almost completely, with this rare exception of a few sequel trilogy pieces, like, for example, Kylo Ren's lightsaber and a few other things, Rey's lightsaber, maybe a Rey outfit or a Kylo outfit, but everything else is now Grogu, Mandoverse, and original trilogy merch. By and large, that's what's selling. We know from these same YouTubers that have gone there and hear the same comments from other guests in the park all the time. Where's Luke? Where's Han? Where's Leia? Where's Darth Vader? Where's Grogu? Where's Mando? They're all asking about classic Star Wars characters or Jon Favreau, Grogu. This is the kind of thing that Disney obviously has observed, and they have made the changes that they have been able to make to satiate these guests to what they can do after they have already committed literally billions of dollars in capital and debt into building not only the park, but the hotel as well. They have got to get cash flows going, and they're going to continue to hold them at these prices until they reach a point when occupancy and bookings drop below a certain level and sustain there. Once whatever those internal metrics are, once those metrics are struck, you're going to start seeing more changes. You're going to start seeing price drops, or you're going to see more discount days. Or eventually, I think, you may start seeing more actual attraction changes inside the hotels, facelifts and things like that. Again, there's no accident they've been trying to tie this hotel into places like the High Republic. And now they're talking about, oh, Han and Leia had their honeymoon here. Ha ha. Yeah, sure. Han and Leia, who they've already basically destroyed in the sequel trilogy, saying, yeah, they had their honeymoon here. Why don't you let us know, did they also, did they have their divorce proceedings on the Halcyon as well? Is that where Han abandoned his wife and children? I mean, that's what you did to him in the sequel trilogy, right? You still really want to go down this road? You still want to try to really actually sell this garbage? Go for it, Disney. But this is where we are. And again, we see things here, and I want to bring this up as one last point, is that here we are with Twitter posts like this, and I'm not trying to pick on this guy. I don't know this gentleman. I'm not going to say anything bad about him personally as a Star Wars, if he's a YouTuber, he's a Twitter personality, he has a website, he covers Star Wars regularly, but I just, again, please don't go, post angry tweets. That's not what this is about. But I just want to, what he's saying, I want to address these comments because I think they are important. Galaxy's Edge from around the galaxy is every 12-year-old Star Wars fan's dream, but the angry, anti-Disney gatekeepers have bashed it. The Galactic StarCruiser is a premium attraction that is, you guessed it, something they want to fill up and sell, but the detractors are out there. Well, okay, fair points. Yes, of course they want to fill it up and sell it. I would argue the point that Galaxy's Edge is every 12-year-old Star Wars fan's dream, but the angry. I have a 10-year-old son. I have a 14 and 16-year-old daughter. We all went to go see the sequel trilogy movies. None of us have watched them again since then. We have watched the original real Star Wars that Lucas did many times. They have even watched the prequels more times than they have watched the sequel trilogy. Basically, once we left the theater with the sequel trilogy, they were forgotten films. The characters were forgotten characters because they are easily forgotten because they were very poorly written, poorly executed, and just did not serve Star Wars well. Those were legitimate, objective criticisms of technical writing that they did in these films because, as we know now from people like John Boyega, from Daisy Ridley, from Oscar Isaac, these trilogies, the trilogy that Disney did, had no plan. It had no plan, and we know that now. Factually, there was no plan. I mean, Daisy Ridley even admitted that J.J. Abrams came up to her in the midst of filming the final movie, The Rise of Palpatine, and said, hey, how would you feel about being a Palpatine? They were still toying with the idea of what they were going to do. In the middle of shooting, they still had no clue. So I'm sorry, there's just not that many fans out there because these properties are not recognizable. Batuu is not a thing in Star Wars. It has never been. And it still to this day is not. But he continues, if people are honest, they're picking the hotel apart before seeing anything because it's out of the average fan's price range. They will find any detail they can to call trash. But again, it's a dream come true for fans. There's a very positive silver lining to all this. Again, I respectfully take issue with this because saying they're picking the hotel apart because it's out of the average price range. No, we have seen it. We have seen it. Disney put a video out on YouTube as their initial promotional piece for it, and it fell flat on its face. That is a legitimate criticism. It looked terrible. It looked cheap. And if you're going to charge me more money than it cost me to take all 5 of my family members, my wife and my 3 children, on a 7-day cruise, on a Disney yacht, on a Disney cruise ship around the Bahamas and to their private island, you're going to charge me more to go to this hotel and spend 40 hours there. I expect more than what I've seen. I expect a lot more than what I've seen in those videos. So I'm sorry, I respectfully disagree with that assessment as well. Continuing, Disney is not trying to appeal to the angry fan who believes the soul of George Lucas has been exorcised from the franchise. You don't matter. They are hoping to reach the masses with attractions that will bring them to a GFFA, a great fan experience. I guess, I don't know. The person that no longer likes Star Wars isn't the target. Well, guess what? There are a lot more people now that used to like Star Wars that don't anymore. At least they don't like the new Disney brand than there are those who like the Disney brand. That has been mathematically and financially borne out beyond any shadow of a doubt, beyond any argument possible, based on the declining movie sales that they had from the first to the third entry in the trilogy, and then also by the merchandise sales. We are 40 years removed, more than 40 years removed, from the original Star Wars movie being released in 1977, and people are still buying Luke and Han and Leia toys. They are still buying original Star Wars merchandise. We are 2 to 3 years removed from the last Disney sequel trilogy film, and nobody is buying anything from that. Not by comparison. Not even by a fraction of a percent compared to original Star Wars merchandise. So please, don't give me that either. All this makes people mad. Back to the tweet. It's important to remember that the gatekeepers who shout so loud when given a YouTube channel or Twitter account make up a very small percentage of fans. Frankly, they aren't even trying to reach people like me, although they'll take my money. Again, I have just completely debunked this nonsense in my previous statement. The sales are what they are, and Disney has tacitly acknowledged that by eliminating the vast bulk of sequel trilogy merchandise from their sales roster and replaced it with something other than the sequel trilogy that this hotel and Galaxy's Edge was entirely based around, based on the dictates of Kathleen Kennedy getting in the ear of Bob Iger. Everything by Disney is designed to have the average person who buys a Star Wars t-shirt at Target because it looks cool and they liked those movies. And if you can't find a joy in a theme park based around a fun fantasy mythology, then you aren't the target audience. Again, this just keeps striking me as, well, if you don't like my book, don't buy it. Well, yeah. So we're just not going to buy it, Disney. That's fine. And the fact that they put the effort into making Batuu a place where deep geeks will find Easter eggs and lore is an appreciation of those that still appreciate the franchise. If you've talked yourself out of Star Wars, it's on you. No, I'm sorry, with all due respect once again, it is not on us. It is on Disney, who has failed the fans and failed this franchise. I have said this before on YouTube, and I will continue to say this as strongly as possible. I respect everybody's opinion out there. If you like the sequel trilogy, then God bless you. I'm glad you found something in there to like. I personally hated it. But I don't think you're a bad person for liking the sequel trilogy. I don't think that you're not a Star Wars fan because you liked the sequel trilogy. That being said, I don't even know what to say to this. Is that this is the problem out there, is that Disney broke the fandom. That is an inarguable point. The Last Jedi, the financial data, the box office numbers, the secondary sales in the DVD and Blu-ray market, and then on to the rise of Skywalker with those box office sales where Disney had to force that movie to limp, pathetically limp, over $1 billion after hanging on for dear life, just so they could get their post-market sales higher. Their licensing rights, in other words. And then they did terrible on the DVD and Blu-ray sales. I'm sorry, it broke the fandom. You cannot make arguments like this without expecting to be rationally responded to. And then finally, I haven't looked at every frame of film, minute of TV, or page of every book since the Disney acquisition, but I will say that I'm happy every day that I get to share Star Wars with my children and friends. We all would change something, but the fact is, it's there at all. The fact that it is there at all is amazing. Well, you know what? I can agree with you here on this last statement. I love sharing Star Wars with my children. It's just the fact that my kids didn't at all care for the 3 movies that Disney has put out. In fact, the only movie that we did like that Disney put out was Rogue One. And, you know, it wasn't just for the last few minutes. I thought the story overall was well told. But the fact remains is that the forgettability of Disney Star Wars is exceptionally high. And that's a shame because, again, 40 years later, my family and I, my kids and I'm still talking about it. I wish my father were still alive because he and I would still be having conversations about the original Star Wars that George Lucas did. But it's just not the case anymore. And that's what Disney needs to understand with this hotel that they have right now. Providing guests with a $6,000 40-hour stay for cheap, great value Walmart brand knockoff Star Wars, you're going to get what you get. You're going to reap what you sow. And I understand right now that probably there's a lot of folks in the executive suites at Disney that are feeling hamstrung and stuck with this because, well, they were stuck with this. The previous regime and leadership of Disney left at the end of last year. And it is now on this new crew, the Susan Arnolds and the Bob Chapeks, to pick up some of this mess and carry it forward. And I know there's folks out there that have their criticisms of Bob Chapek, and that's all fine. And I do understand some of those criticisms. And I can understand right now, while the Chapek criticism may be the price that he has placed on this hotel, but I promise you that price was placed some time ago. That didn't just happen in the last 6 months. But then again, the level of quality that you're getting, and please understand this, the level of quality that you're getting in that hotel, the lack of actual traditional Star Wars, I'm sorry, unless I see something strikingly different, I can't put this on Bob Chapek at this point because the design of that hotel was pretty much out of his hands. It was done well before that he had any power to make those decisions. Even when he was running the theme park division and the resorts division, at the end of the day, Bob Iger still had his finger on the button and could override it. And from what we know from previous reporting and from leaks from previous Disney Imagineers, that's pretty much what happened, at least as far as we can tell based on those reports. So this is going on long enough. I know I'm going to have a lot more to talk about this in coming days. I didn't expect to go 30 minutes, but I hope you enjoyed this. And I hope that you have a lot of thoughts on this because I really want to hear from you on this. I'm disappointed with this hotel from what I've seen so far. No, I don't have to go spend the money to go see it myself to see how good or bad it is. I've seen enough. This is the day and age of the internet. And when people put out YouTube videos, we can look at them and we can assess a great deal of at least the visual experience from what we've seen. And again, I made it clear that I bet the staff there is a tremendous, hardworking staff, probably trying to do the best they can. And I have mad respect for those people, just like I did when I took a Disney cruise about 4 or 5 years ago. So, good to see everybody. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, do leave a comment before you head out the door today. And until next time, folks, take care.